Good evening. Tonight is April the 7th. This is MAN 4720 policy, and this is our last meeting before the final exam, which is a week from today. You should have the test banks on about, what, 6 or 8 chapters?
6 chapters.
I've forgotten.
I think
It's
it's
8.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
6,
6, 8, 9.
8, 9, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 8 chapters. So, and a couple of those are pretty short. The other thing is I posted to Canvas this evening a list of about 7 study questions on the macroeconomics topics, and I will draw from those questions to build the exam for that part of the test. So you got all the materials in front of you. I'm going to talk about just a couple of small things tonight, and then I'm going to ask you if you've got any kind of stuff you want to go over. Okay? Anything on your mind before I get started?
You can stuff about the questions.
Okay. We will meet here for the exam next week at A202. You'll need a Scantron and some full sheet Scantron and some notebook paper and pen to write some answers to the essay questions. We will start at 5:30, and I would imagine you're going to be done in 2 hours comfortably. I'm not going to try to make a monster out of it. So that's what I've got. Some of the topics in economics are not in those questions I gave you, and therefore you don't need to worry about them. You just focus on those questions. There is one question on there I did want to talk about, and I think there's a video, I'm sure there's a video on it, but it's called the paradox of economics. And it comes about because of the recession we've just gone through, and the cry that we need to balance our budget. And the paradox is what is true for you or I as an individual. If we were having a deficit and we were spending more money than we're earning, there are things we need to do about it. Either make more money or spend less money. For the government, if you translate that into, well, that's what the government should do. They should either bring in more money by raising taxes, or they should spend less money by cutting government spending in order to balance their budget. What's the problem with that? If the government looks around and says, we've got too much debt, we're going to raise taxes, and we're going to cut government spending, what will that do to the economy?
It's essentially a cornerstone of the economy, and you take out the cornerstone.
Which cornerstone?
Well, I wouldn't say it's over 50%.
Well, I'm trying to get you to say a key word, spending. That if you raise taxes, we're going to spend less money because we got less. If you cut government spending, people who have government jobs are going to have less money. 25% of the workforce in America today, 25% works for the federal government in one way or another. And when you start cutting back on that, you start laying those people off, you start cutting back their hours, you may bring your budget into balance. But what's going to happen? With that cut in spending, remember the graphs, aggregate demand is going to decrease. We're going to tailspin into rising unemployment. Then what happens? Then your tax receipts fall further because there's fewer people paying taxes. And then your spending on unemployment compensation, welfare, that kind of stuff goes up. And you put yourself back in that, deficit position, more going out than coming in. It's self-defeating. And so while it's true for you or me, yeah, we need to either spend less or go earn more money. If you try to do that for the economy as a whole through the government, it's counterproductive. And that's what the right side of the spectrum was saying we needed to do, starting about 5 years ago. Oh, the debt's too high, we need to balance the books. Well, if you balance the books the way you or I would as an individual, and you do it for the economy as a whole, you tank the economy. Now, around that, that was the other term for that was austerity, right? We need to practice austerity, spend less money, spend less money. But the less money you spend, the more you depress the economy. And the more you depress the economy, people lose jobs, they stop paying taxes, your tax receipts fall. And then some of them try to come out and say, well, it would be expansionary, actually. If you actually just shrank government to pay off the deficit, everybody would feel so good about it and be so optimistic about it, they'd go out and spend money. Well, I don't know what they were smoking, but it was a joke. And yet they got serious press, serious coverage. And it wasn't just the United States, throughout Europe. And several countries paid the price. So that's the paradox. The paradox is that what's true for you or me as an individual is not necessarily, and in fact is not categorically applicable for the nation as a whole. So you may want to watch the other video, maybe it'll come across clearer, but that's towards one of the questions. Now, what you got?
The number 6, equivalence.
Equivalence. Equivalence is the argument that if the government wants to spend money to stimulate the economy, where are they going to get it?
Taxes.
They're either going to raise taxes. Think about that. If they raise our taxes so they can spend more money, what do?
Spend less money.
We spend less money. So if they pay for that government spending by raising taxes, there's an equivalent to their spending, there's an equivalent drop in spending by you and me and maybe the business sector, depending on who they tax. And this is the argument on the conservative side, that government spending is fundamentally ineffective. That every time you try to stimulate the economy with more spending, you're just taking dollars that would have been spent by somebody else, reducing it and having the government spending. Now there's a term associated with that involves the government borrowing money. If they don't want to raise our taxes, instead they just want to go out and borrow the money. The argument is crowding out will occur. They go out and borrow more money, well they're competing for that borrowed money with businesses. And so as they enter the market and start trying to borrow also, it drives interest rates up. And as interest rates go up, what happens to businesses? You can't borrow as much. You know, if the interest rate goes up to 10% and you're only going to earn 8% of profit on your investment, you don't want to borrow that money. And so the argument is if government starts borrowing money and driving up interest rates, that will crowd out business spending. Same thing, sort of an equivalence. Higher government spending, but the higher interest rates drive out me and you and businesses, and so the net result is a wash. It's no help. That's equivalence. Is it real? And I suggest to you the answer is that if the economy were really booming and we had full employment, it'd probably be a real danger. Because businesses are out there borrowing money, trying to expand. Customers are coming through the doors. You and I are out there trying to buy new cars and RVs. And when interest rates go up, that'll put a damper on it. But if you look at an economy that's in a recession, where we're not spending a hell of a lot of money anyway, our higher interest rate's going to make a difference. Not for me, I'm going to buy a car anyway. Not for me, I'm not looking for a home in this market. So is equivalence an issue? Is crowding out an issue? And the answer, I believe, is yes when the economy is booming, when you're up close to full employment. But when you're down in a recession with high unemployment, I don't think that's going to happen. Okay?
So it's more significant of an argument in a better economy.
It's a significant argument when the economy is doing well.
Okay.
It's not as significant, and this is more my opinion, but not just my opinion. It's less significant a problem when you have a recessed economy. Okay? And as we were saying before class, most of this economics is common sense. You just have to think of it, and you have to recognize the terminology. So that was that one. Did you have some other questions that you wanted to look at?
Not with that one specifically. I looked up the paradox of macroeconomics online, and I was able to figure that out, but I wasn't able to find the equivalent. So.
There is a video by that title. That was.
I just did a quick Google search.
Okay, good, because I'm pretty sure it's on the VRSQ.
Yeah.
If it's not, email it.
Okay.
I'm certain I saw it.
And then for number 1 about austerity or stimulus, that's more of a personal, just as long as we can back it up with logical arguments, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm trying to be open-minded about that.
Okay.
The argument for austerity, when an economy is in a recession, to me, has been proven wrong for the last 6 years. I'm not sure how you would defend it.
Okay.
Okay? But if you could make an interesting defense for it, I would not subtract any credit from it.
Okay.
Absolutely. Cool. Good. What would all that mean to you and me in a business then?
Well,
If a party took control of the White House and the Congress and said, we believe in austerity, we believe we need to pay our debts down, we're too far in debt, what would that mean for you and me? Running our business.
Likely higher taxes.
If not higher taxes,
less revenue.
Well, I mean, the government, if they can't raise taxes on us because they don't want to punish us that way, how are they going to get the money? Or what are they going to do? I'm sorry, I said that wrong. What are they going to do? If they can't raise taxes to pay off their debt, cut spending. And if the government's going to cut spending, what's that going to do for you and me and our business?
It's going to give us less customers.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the business.
The severity and the quickness with which it happens depends on the type of business. Yeah. If we were a government contractor, we go around army bases painting fences for them. Look out, right? We're going to lose our shirt because they're going to be cutting as much as they can there. If we've got a Publix grocery store in Gainesville, it's not going to hit us directly. We're going to be far cushioned. We may not see a big change. But if you did have a Publix grocery store in Gainesville, what happened to the state government spending in the recession? When in the recession, people losing jobs and spending less money. The big source of revenue for the state is the sales tax. Sales tax collections fell through the floor because we stopped spending so much money, and the state government can't borrow money. They got to balance the budget every year. So they had no choice. It's either raise taxes or cut spending. They didn't want to raise taxes, so state government spending in Florida and most other states took a real hit. How do you suppose that affected Gainesville? How much of Gainesville is dependent upon state government money? The University of Florida, Santa Fe College, and several other agencies throughout the area. So my point would be is we understand macroeconomics, we understand the implications of austerity, and we translate it in terms of what kind of business do we have, where, and how much will we be affected. And if you were Publix, let's take that another step. If you were Publix and knew that the Gainesville area was going to take a real hit, a lot of state employees were either going to be laid off or hours cut back or something like that, total spending was going to fall, total incomes to families was going to decrease, how would you interpret that for your grocery store? What would you do? How would you react to it?
I know that we would project in the future less sales.
Okay.
And so less spending on the part of the consumers. Trying to work through it in my head.
You're right on track.
Yeah.
Would we change our product mix on the shelves?
More inferior.
Perfect, that's the answer I wanted. We would shift over and reposition and probably carry more depth in the inferior goods. Store brands,
Yeah.
hamburger meat instead of steak, lots of ramen noodles. We might move in that direction depending on the demographics of our store and the
Yeah.
people who came into it. Okay, so far?
Yeah.
All that's right out of managerial economics, or what we call global society, global economics. And there are a formula, I don't know if you guys used them, to describe just how much our revenue will probably change based on the various elasticities, price elasticities and income elasticities involved. So it would have strategic implications. And if you were Publix, how long does it take you to change the product offering in your stores?
Probably a while, I would think.
I would think that by the time you looked at it and you said, you know, we've got this many shelf feet display for these products that we need to change over to cheaper, inferior goods, if you will. Well, what do you got to do? You got to sell off the stuff you got in some way and keep your stocks minimal. You've got to contact your suppliers of the inferior goods and say, hey, we're going to be increasing our orders. How much is their lead time to produce that? Then you've got to get the message down to the stores and say, we're going to start phasing this in, and we're going to be gradually decreasing the space for these goods and increasing the display space for these goods. And that would be, I think, an interesting logistical problem, particularly with the timing,
Yeah.
keeping it right. Some pretty good implications. Okay, so that was austerity. Does anybody look much at the multiple choice questions out of the text?
I still have, and I have a few because there are some things that Laura and I didn't necessarily agree on.
Okay.
You finished them?
Yeah. I finished them a while ago.
I'm working on it.
So, a company achieves competitive advantage whenever. Oh, wait, no, wrong one. Hold on. Number 2. While there are many routes to competitive advantage, they all involve I think it's delivering superior value to buyers and building competencies and resource strengths in performing value chain activities that rivals cannot readily match.
And
Laura thinks it's achieving lower cost than rivals and becoming the industry's sales and market share leader.
I agree with you.
First one?
I can't tell you the answers,
That's unfair.
but think through this for a minute. Think through this for a minute. If you've got lousy customer service and low prices, what's eventually going to happen to your customer?
They're going to get tired of poor customers.
They're going to find an alternative.
Money.
Anybody who can come reasonably close to matching you can take you away from
They'll
them.
switch. Yeah, like I'm seriously considering going, with the research I'm doing on Target, I'm seriously considering any time I need to go to Walmart, just going to Target instead.
Why is that?
Because it was really pointed out, their stores are cleaner, their people care more, and it's just a generally more pleasant experience. And
They're
man,
brighter too.
this is kind of me being like uppity.
Okay.
Man, you don't have to deal with all the, not necessarily poor, but just classless people who just don't, who go in. There's a reason there's a website called People of Walmart. Okay, hundreds.
See, you are just totally negating the entertainment value of going to Walmart. Okay.
I try.
Okay.
Let's see. There's,
Because the price differential is what? Between Walmart and
I mean, not
Target.
much.
Not enough
Yeah.
to justify what the other aspects of the quality of the experience to.
Yeah.
And in a sense, your answers, the quality of the experience is what we're looking to gain an advantage on.
Okay.
And maybe low price is part of it, but that's a real two-edged blade. That can cut your own throat.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that the other strategic analyses that I'm reading about Target are talking about is that they don't want to sacrifice that beautiful image they built for themselves at the cost of low prices.
That's
that
right.
They really need to be careful. So.
If we could take a few minutes and talk about our experiences, just with excellent experience in shopping. Do any stores come to mind?
Public.
Who?
Public.
Me too. Publix right off the bat.
See, every time I go to Publix, I go to the deli and I have a horrible experience.
What kind of experience?
The sandwich makers don't pay attention, don't care. They assemble your stuff with old, dry, cracked bread that rips up the inside of your mouth. Anytime I get chicken from the one at Tower and Archer, it's all fried in the morning and held in a heating cabinet all day long, which is totally against their policies.
Have you said anything to the management?
I have, and sometimes
change.
stuff happens, but not a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, and like their deli, their meat is all like just right on the edge of expiring.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they freeze and thaw and refreeze and stuff, and
Well, that's kind of discouraging.
I've
Exactly.
never had a good Publix
See-
stuff before.
I've had certain shining experience. The Jonesville one and the one inside Hale Plantation. The people that care, and I attribute it to they have a customer base that has more money and can go somewhere else if they want.
That could be, which then begs the question, if people who have customers with bad attitudes come in, does that create a self-fulfilling prophecy in the way they treat the employees, who then give it back in response? And it does become circular and self-defeating. But I shop up at Hunter's Crossing. As far as I'm concerned, Publix has the best fried chicken in town.
I've had great experiences at
Everything,
Yeah.
and but maybe there are stores. Now, if you were the regional manager for Publix, and you knew that this one store had an issue like that, but you had other stores that were excellent, what would you do?
I would go and talk to the managers of. I would have some kind of store manager meeting for that store, all the managers, and I would figure out. I would be like, are these problems that you're just, have these been brought to your attention? Why haven't you done something about them? Because again, like I understand that you have to cut costs, and that so you want your closing to go as quickly as possible, get those people out of there. But at the same time, I've had someone straight up refuse to fry chicken for me because it was too late. It was 9:30 and they closed at 11. They said, nope, I'm not going to fry you anything, sorry. And I went and got the manager, and the dude tried to argue with the manager. And he didn't get fired.
Maybe we can record this and send it to Publix.
I just
What would you think of the idea? Okay, I've got this store that's got some issues. I'll just take the assistant manager from this store and I'll put him over in that store for a while.
see. I've seen. It's a great concept because my friend John, he's a manager at the Sprint store in the middle of town, over by Buchholz, and the Ocala store was performing terribly, and his store was performing great, so they moved him down to Ocala store. Has there been any change? Nope. And he got in there, he did team meetings, he tried to get people to change, and it didn't help.
Okay.
So sometimes, I'm not deep enough into it, I would think that maybe it's the industry. Cell phones, yes, everyone has a cell phone, but people aren't always going and getting new phones all the time. And that makes it so his kind of business, it's also the way Sprint is set up.
Well, even go back to Publix by the same token.
Yeah.
My point would be that if you're going to send just one person over there, you're sending him out there to fight the engines all by himself. Send him over there with a crew. Give him a task force. Give him 6 or 8 people, a couple of senior level managers just below him, and preferably put him in charge. And then don't just give him the responsibility for cleaning up, give him the total authority. Hire and fire. Do you think if you were the manager of that store and you could bring a cadre of 6 or 8 people with you who knew the rules the way you play them, do you think you could clean that store up? And how long do you think it would take?
I think I absolutely could. And I don't think it would, if I had a group of people who knew what was expected,
Right.
I don't think it would take long at all.
Or could you keep it clean? You could bring in fresh faces that haven't been tainted by the demographics of where the store is.
Yes, but sometimes it's not always the demographics that make. We all know there are just some people who are terrible workers, and some.
And who are terrible managers.
That's true,
And terrible customers.
and that's true. In my experience, yes, there are always going to be some customers that you can't satisfy, but the ones who are on the edge of that, you can bring them in very easily with good customer service, because it's just like the thing in it was for my sales class. It's talking about how there's the things that we expect, and if we get them, then it's just normal. But then there's the delight things, and if you delight someone, if you give them something they don't expect, that's positive, they're going to be extra happy, and they're going to come back to you. And all it takes is that little thing. It's like that example he gave in class was like at hotels. Instead of just using junky shampoo, using like Pert Plus or something, you know? People are going to see that. They're going to be like, oh, you know, this isn't junk. And they're going to be delighted.
And what was the cost of that?
Like nothing, especially when you do it in bulk.
Yeah.
So.
Now, John, I was going to ask you, in the military, you ever seen an outfit where it was pretty screwed up?
Yeah.
And a new CO come in and straighten it up?
It's hard with the CO, but if you, to me, it's more on the NCO side in the military. You get a new first sergeant, he typically will turn things around.
We did it, in my experience, we came in with a new CO, a new XO, and a new first sergeant.
Right.
And it took about 3 weeks.
Oh yeah, it doesn't take long in the military.
Because you have the discipline. You have the rather unlimited authority. Yeah. I think doing that in the civilian setting, say with Publix, it's going to take a little while longer. But you can still change that culture.
And like you're saying though, with the coming in with the team, you could also find out what area of Publix per se is in trouble,
Yeah.
or not meeting or exceeding the standard, and go to that area. And,
Yeah.
give somebody like the customer service manager, okay, you take 2 people instead of switching, 8 people at one time. You can switch 2 or 3.
Ideally, though, that would be the store manager saying that.
Right.
Going up saying, I need somebody to take over this department because this guy's not straightening up. And I agree with that. Paul's got a good point, though. Even if you've got good people, but you put them in a store that's otherwise either poorly managed or has a real lousy target market, I think your job is 3 times more difficult because it's frustrating as hell to work in that. Imagine that whoever's managing your inventory is ordering too much meat. And so you keep it in the freezer, but it never sells, never sells. You put it out, it doesn't sell, you freeze it again. That's not necessarily that meat manager's problem if he's not ordering the inventory. And so you've got to identify those problems that are external to whoever's not doing the job. But that's, to me, what management's all about.
Well, on the customer side, you can look at two companies owned by the same people.
Mhm.
You get much better service at Sam's Club than you do at Walmart.
Okay, why is that, you suppose?
I would assume that from what my experience going to Sam's Club, the people that go there
Mhm.
are much more polite, variety.
The customers,
Yes, sir.
okay?
Yes,
I think it's more the,
in the mindset.
country club versus a local golf course, city-owned golf course. You're a paid member at Sam's, you're not a paid member at Walmart. So the class of people is probably a little higher at Sam's.
That could well be, and the other thing to me is, what are the compensation differences for the employees? I've always heard the Sam's Club employees did pretty good, but the Walmart
Yeah, never.
employees didn't. I don't know, but that's worth asking. Which- Which, maybe there's an interesting comparison there. What's the business plan for Sam's Club as opposed to the business plan for Walmart? The Walmart plan is what? Cheapest price, cheapest cost, keep the cost down, bring them in and sell on volume. What's going on with Sam's Club though?
They're business selling to businesses.
They're doing business to business selling for one. They're selling in bulk for better prices, which means you're not gonna be bringing somebody in there who's only got $6 in his pocket. You can't buy anything at Sam's Club for $6 that I know of.
Like a sausage.
I've never walked out of Sam's Club spending less than $200.
Well, they give you a flatbed truck
Just about,
to
yeah.
haul stuff
Yeah.
out. Even the carts are much larger.
But look at the comparison in the business models there. And, you know, even if they're both profitable, to me, that would still say something about where I would want to work, if not where I would shop. All right, you got some more questions, Jeff?
Indeed. I'm having some problems with amoral, moral, and moral because I found one of the different definitions, I believe, for moral. Yeah, well, kind of. Moral managers see themselves as stewards of ethical behavior and believe it is important to exercise ethical leadership.
Okay.
I would think that would be right. That's
Okay,
right.
sounds good.
For immoral manager, I'm narrowed down to no. I believe amoral has no regard for so-called ethical standards.
Amoral means without,
Okay.
okay? Agnostic,
Okay.
knowing, agnostic, agnostic, not knowing, the opposite.
So then, immoral believes that ethical standards violate the principle of moral free space and therefore are illegitimate?
That's kind of iffy. Immoral typically means operates on a set of systems that are contrary to those accepted. Amoral means operates without morals. Immoral means you intentionally do things wrong. Every time somebody comes to my cash register and I charge them their credit card, they don't recognize it, but I put it down for $10 cash and send them out the door. I put the $10 in my pocket. That's immoral.
Well, is ethically unprincipled, but nonetheless usually observes ethical standards? That wouldn't make sense either. Nonetheless,
That's seemingly contradictory.
exactly. So then none of these work. I'm 24.
Let me read it. An immoral. This would make a good discussion question. What do you think about this? An immoral manager is one who strongly believes that it is ethical to do anything that is legal.
See, I don't think that that's immoral.
That is a good discussion.
Because it's legal? It's moral?
Yes and no. You've got me.
It could be moral for some situations.
Exactly.
Moral for others.
It's, whatever is legal is not necessarily moral, but at the same time, functioning like that isn't necessarily immoral, because in some of the time you are doing moral things, because some legal stuff is moral. And if you were immoral, then you would always do against what is moral, wouldn't you?
Tough time with the word always.
Or more often than not.
Okay, which then leads you in a couple of other answers here. Someone who will stoop to unethical behavior if there's low risk of discovery.
But
So he'll violate his morals,
But then
if he
it
thinks he won't be caught.
but then it says but doesn't it say something about but usually abides by is that one or
No, it says he's ethically principled most of the time, but he'll break, he'll use unethical behavior if he thinks it'll help the company.
But see, I would still kind of think that might be no, because it's I don't know.
Immoral is going against the accepted standards of morality or behavior.
I'll give up on that one. I'll let that be my wrong one on this. How about the contention that ethical standards should be governed by, both by a limited number of universal ethical principles and the circumstances of local cultures and traditions? Is that integrated social contracts?
I think that. But I gather you've read it in the book
I mean,
5 or 9 times?
I've read, and I'm to the point where I'm just so ready for my week after graduation because I'm taking it off from work. I'm just gonna relax.
Go to the beach.
I'm just gonna sit in a recliner. Just gonna sit there.
I think again, I'm not going to say the answer, but the focus of me making you read about the ethical considerations in there is that one of the things people encounter most often right out of college is they find themselves in situations of questionable behavior. And should I do this or should I not? Everybody else is doing it. Should I just go along? Peer pressure to go along. And if you examine, the bottom line is, what do you consider ethical, and what is your own personal ethical code?
I mean, I know I have terrible ethics.
Well, then it's, and I think you're joking, but when you start considering it, you begin to find the line in the sand.
Yeah.
There are some things I won't do. Unfortunately, for most folks, they don't discover that line with real definition until they get much older.
Yeah, well, I'm lucky that I had the life experience first.
Good.
Yeah, 'cause I've definitely been put.
My concern has always been that, particularly, university level, you get 22-year, 23-year-old students going out, and sometimes military especially, huge responsibility in very, very gray areas,
Yeah.
and real easy to really screw up. You remember the My Lai massacre in Vietnam? Ever heard of that?
Mm-mm.
We had an Army lieutenant out there with a platoon, and they massacred a village of innocent civilians. And the question has always been, how could he have let that happen? And you can make up all the stories and mitigating circumstances you want, but they didn't fire on him. He just let his soldiers go in there and kill him.
Yeah.
Where was his ethical line? And my concern is that, at least by having gone through those challenging questions, you kind of examine what is ethical for me. Very easy.
I think that's all my questions.
You have given me an idea, though,
Wait, maybe, no.
that is that I probably should give you the 40 questions and then give you 2 pages to elucidate your answer on any ones you think that are uncertain.
Hey, that'd be awesome.
I
I'd
think so,
do
too.
that.
I'd be interested in hearing your defense of your answers, even if they were by the textbook technically not correct, because I got a feeling we're all thinking down the same line.
Okay.
Okay, so you've taught me something tonight. Thank you. Anything else? Do I still owe you a letter? Did I send it to you?
You
I
did.
didn't send it.
No, you did.
I'm sorry. I thought I did, that's why I forgot about it. I know I've written it.
And I did have a question for the Capstone project while it's still
Yeah.
fresh in my mind.
You're doing that this summer?
Yes. My boss and I are formulating a plan when he gets back from his vacation he just bought 10 violins with his own money. He wants to get them to me to find my own way to sell them and see which way works best.
Ooh,
And violins.
violins. They refinish and repair.
And we split the profits, obviously, because it's business. And I was wondering, is there a way we can turn that into a business problem that I would be solving for the Capstone?
Well, you seem to infer that you have 1 or 2 or 3 different ways to sell them.
We were gonna find the different methods. Our biggest idea at the moment is eBay, because that's a big competitor of ours. We wanted to see how much we could make on eBay by offering a superior quality instrument. There's a lot of things that come into our business are from eBay, and they're horrible. People have to spend 4 times as much as they paid on it just to make it decent.
I guess, because I'm totally ignorant in the field, how sophisticated do you have to be to recognize a poor instrument?
You have to be able to hear it. I can look at one and say, that's horrible, but I'm looking at the quality of the brazen strings, 2 of the biggest factors. And I can just see it from my years of looking at them, what's
Right.
good, what's bad.
But you really can't judge it till it's played.
Correct.
Then why do people buy them on eBay?
Because they are starting off and they don't know what a good one sounds like as compared to a bad one. They think, oh, this will be great. If my kid plays on this for a few months and they stick with it, then we'll get them a better one. Kind of the paradox in that is, it's going to sound so horrible, the kid's not going to want to stick with it. And then they lost their investment. However, you could still buy the nice one when the kid starts off.
Could you demonstrate to me a good versus a bad violin? If
By
you brought them
playing?
in by
No,
playing?
I couldn't. I can't play.
Oh.
I can, if I brought a player with me, I
Could
could
Jan?
demonstrate. Yes, he could.
And if he did that on a video, would the difference be noticeable to the
It's
average
harder to do on video.
untrained ear?
Video quality isn't as good, and it's also harder to do with somebody who doesn't know what they're listening for.
I think I know where you're going with that. Are you going with the Zappos thing?
No, tell me
Wait,
that.
Zappos does that. If you go on Zappos, almost every shoe that they sell, you can click and they have a guy that goes and, talks about the shoe, like little 2-minute tidbits, this one's good for trails and look at the flexibility. Is that basically where you're going? Like, so, this is what's good about this violin. Like, have like a little demonstration video with,
Where I was headed is the fact that to get somebody to buy a good quality instrument at a fair price, you need to educate that buyer.
right.
Yes.
And I was headed towards, can you educate them on video?
You can lay the groundwork, but one of the big things is they just don't know what they're listening for or what they're feeling,
Okay.
because there's a great variation in how it feels in your hand. The wood could be not quite sanded enough and compressed, and there's lips on things that you don't want to feel.
Okay. This is from the taxidermy business, okay? If you came to my shop and either brought in an animal you'd shot that you wanted mounted, or were just inquiring, the first thing I would try to do is take you by the hand and give you a guided tour through my shop. And if I could show you the things we do, along the way I would indicate also the things to watch out for, because I want you to go look at other taxidermy shops and see the quality of their work. And I want to educate you a little bit on what to look for, like how to tell if the eyes are properly mounted instead of canine, or whether the antlers are crooked or not. You can't necessarily judge off the bat whether or not the skin of the animal has been adequately tanned, but if it hasn't been, you'll know in about 6 weeks from the trail of ants going up your wall. What have I just done? I put fear into you. I've made you start being a little more concerned. So in my mind, one of the things you could do is an instructional video on shopping for a violin. Things to look for. The quality. Compare multiple violins. Establish yourself as an authority who knows what quality is, and then sell the violins. Because now you're going to get people who don't want to take the risk of buying a real piece of junk and are willing to come closer to your price. See what I'm saying?
Yes.
I would take that approach. I'm going to educate these buyers as much as I can. And then maybe at the end, watch for, we'll be auctioning off, or we'll be putting an eBay auction off on one of our better violins here soon. And then when you put that violin up for sale, you tag it somewhere and say, go see our video on how to choose a violin. Things to be aware of and watch out for, and how this thing cannot be very good. How a bad violin can doom a musical career right off the bat because it never gets any better. And I don't know the prices we're talking about, but I think if you're going to talk to people about selling quality merchandise, you've got to either have them educated or make them educated. And I would do that as my business plan. I'm going to try this method of building this video, this educational system, and marketing these products under that video or tied to that video. And then if you want to do a comparison, sell 2 or 3 other violins without ties to the advertising or the education, and see what the difference is in performance.
So would that work as the Capstone
I would
project?
think so, sure.
Yeah, your problem could be that there's an overabundance of buyers who aren't properly educated on what to look for on a violin, and that's affecting the business because you're having to compete with eBay.
And the big thing is this, when you don't know much about a violin, how much do you think most people think they're gonna spend for that first violin? What do you think they,
200 or less.
200 or less, okay? And so, you're gonna sell them a good quality violin for how much?
Good quality?
Well-
Upwards of 2,000.
Okay, for a first violin, but these 10 you're gonna sell, are they gonna go for that price range?
2 to 3, yes.
Then, this is a little manipulative, but the first thing you gotta instill in them is worry, fear. If you're gonna buy a $200 violin, you're gonna get a $200 violin. What could happen as a result? Your kid will never like music the rest of his life. And even if you go out and buy a $600 or $800 violin, you're taking the same risks. Establish yourself as someone who cares about making sure this person buys a violin that's gonna do what they want it to do. Now, I think that means you're gonna eliminate an awful lot of first-time buyers, because they don't wanna spend that money. And that's fine. That's not the ones you wanna talk to anyway. But you're gonna have so many people out there who are uncertain about what they're doing. You wanna find the ones that are willing to reduce the risk by spending more money. And that's what that educational video will do.
I could show them the demonstration of 2 exact same violins made by the same maker, some factory in China.
Yeah.
And those violins are sold on eBay for $80, $90 with the bow and case.
Okay.
So we get them, and we sell them for $550 without a bow and without a case. But I could,
After you clean them up.
after we make them good. And we charge somebody about $300 to do that. But we still have to make a profit if we sell them. But anyway, I could have someone play them on video, one fresh out of the box and one ready to go out the door. And there is a huge difference. in sound.
That would be
Even on
noticeable.
video, yes.
I'd do that in a heartbeat.
What is it that you guys do to make them different?
First off, we make the pegs turn well. Because sometimes they could be so stiff, you will snap it off in the hole, and it won't turn. Put on good strings with a synthetic cord instead of just steel wrapped in steel. Sounds good. Put on a bridge. The bridges on there are about that tall, maybe 10 grain.
And they should be.
And they should be about 20 to 30. So we put on a denser wood, and the sound post inside that connects the top to the back, so it makes the whole instrument vibrate. It should have about 7 to 11 grain in it, and they'll have about 2 when we take them out.
Now,
They're
if-
horrible. And they're crushed, shoved in there, and they're cut off with pliers.
Wow.
And ours are cut off with an X-Acto knife and then fitted.
If you can convey that without getting too detailed and confusing the customer,
Mhm.
you got a gold mine. I mean, I don't know how much advertising Jan does now.
Basically just on Facebook and the ad here and there.
Would you want more business?
We would definitely like more business.
That's sitting out there waiting for you, right there.
So my next question is, when I'm selling these for him, do I associate myself with the business, or am I my own business, as far as the customer is concerned? Like, we don't have to put our own label inside, or our own serial number.
I don't know, but because I know and respect Jan and how long he's been in the business, I would absolutely sell it through his business, with all of his professional reputation backing it up. Yeah. Now, the next question is gonna be, well, if I buy one of those $200 jobs and bring it to you, can you fix it for $350 and I can go on my way? Why shouldn't I buy that instead of the $2,000 model? At least for my first one.
That kind of went over my head, sorry.
From what you've just shown me on your video, I can buy this cheap $200 Chinese violin, bring it into you guys, and for $350 more, you'll fix it. Why shouldn't I use that for my kid's first violin instead of that $2,000 model?
That's a good question, and we would tell them to buy a cheaper one, our lower model,
Which is
$550.
perfect. Perfect. Because what happens? You sell them
So
the
there you
first
go.
one.
Yeah.
You sell them the first one with that kind of customer service, and particularly that kind of education. You didn't just make one customer. He'll be telling every friend he's got. And you know better than I do, the parents of all those kids talk to each other.
Our two lowest models, the 550 and the 950, come back all the time
To trade up.
to trade up.
You got a gold mine looking at you.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. You put that on YouTube, I want 1/2 of 1% of your increase in sales. And I can retire. Now, I think you'd have a hell of a good project, and I think it would be very beneficial to the business.
I got a question about the Capstone, since
Sure.
Dr. Searcy hasn't responded yet. What are you guys looking for to turn in, right?
Dr. Searcy gave me,
You step back.
Because I don't, this is the only time I ever come to campus,
I understand.
is for this class. And when I come, he's already gone.
Yeah.
But like,
um,
does he want like a PowerPoint?
Frankly, John, I don't know.
You don't want a hard drive? Do you
Because-
want
I'm not administering the course, and I don't know what he's looking
a
for.
paper prop?
I
And,
thought you were.
and this one, he hasn't,
there's
this one, he
really
hasn't
nothing.
given anything other than, all right, let's put the cap on the capstone, and you basically told him what your final plan was. But like, he hasn't said,
He, just the other night in what's it called class?
Okay.
Econ class. I asked him.
yeah, see, I don't have any more, I don't have any classes.
That's all I've gotten. But at the same time, I'm totally glad, because it's like, tell me
Which
some
one?
background on the business, tell me the problem, tell me some of the solutions you could have picked, and tell me the one that you did pick, and give me references. That's it.
In a paper?
Yeah.
Okay.
He said because I was going to draft up a formal recommendation report like I did for the writing class.
Mhm.
It was going to be 19 pages long. He's like, make it clear, concise.
So what day
Tell
are we doing
me,
this on?
huh?
What day are we doing this on?
See, that's the thing. I asked him about presenting. He said he wants us just to make a video and submit it online. That there's not really a place that we could present in front of our peers. So,
I was thinking it should be more of a PowerPoint presentation in a class in front of a board of faculty.
That's what I thought it was.
That was the original concept. I had no idea what's
Well,
happening.
you get a couple professors up there, you know, give your little presentation, and then if they want a copy of the presentation, or they have questions, or you have any handouts, in addition to like,
Well, I think Jeff's got the right idea. Absent any direction, you're pretty free to do what you want.
yeah, I sent him an email saying, hey, you know, because I remember seeing that, but I don't know, I think I got that probably 2 semesters ago.
Okay.
And I said, hey, my absent, or my, memory escapes me, and I'm not seeing any direction in our senior capstone class. What do you want?
yeah.
And
I think it's right now that he's kind of a little overloaded at least, and
All of us
is
are.
trying to.
right.
Yeah. And this is like the first group of people.
Now
who's
you're
going through.
you're in the senior one, right?
Yeah.
Are we doing another TED discussion and a book and all that?
No, in the final one, no, it's just you turn it in your report. That's
Oh.
it.
Is that
Shit,
the one
I've been
for this
reading-
semester?
Oh, sorry. I read another book and all that. So
Yeah. No, I did
That's actually
Capstone
a good
2
book.
in the final one.
Well, I think the best advice is to prepare a presentation,
Right.
put it on video, write a paper to support it, and turn it all in.
Yeah.
And part of your presentation could very definitely be a PowerPoint.
Yeah. And I mean, it notes that in there. It says however you want to do it.
I guess I could make
Pretty
like a
good.
video. in front of
convince them in 90
projector
seconds.
screen.
Say again?
I guess I could make a video of me presenting to
Yeah,
an
you can.
invisible class in front of a projector screen.
You can do that. Now, is yours gonna be on this business thing?
Was the whole point of the discussion. Would it be able to transition into
A
an appropriate
capstone?
project?
In my opinion, yes, but I'm not sure what Dr. Searcy's looking for, so you
Well,
can
you've
run it by
been
him.
pretty lenient with this, what your project has to be. Like mine is setting up a warranty program
Mhm,
for a utility trailer business,
mhm,
Triple Crown in Ocala.
mhm.
It
So
really-
you're just setting up a warranty program?
Yeah, but I'm going through the whole process with them, because right now they don't have a warranty.
Okay,
Yeah, and,
that's cool.
yeah, it's basically, and it's a generic, not a generic, but like a 30-day warranty on the trailer itself. And
Well, and you're gonna put it on video, right?
yeah, I'm gonna make a presentation. If we're not gonna actually present it in front of
Yeah,
people, I guess I'll do it on a video.
but what I would recommend is get your camera, go down there and shoot some video of them making the trailers,
Right.
working in the office, talking with the boss, and then have that as the lead into, and here's what we did for the warranty. you know?
Really, it seems to me like Dr. Searcy wants you to evidence your value and the knowledge that you've gained to a business, so they can say that you know that Santa Fe graduate helped us in our business. You know,
So-
that's
I think your idea is solid.
yeah.
I was just under the impression you were leading that particular class.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, I didn't even think about asking you until he did. I was like, oh, wait, no.
Mine is I'm working with the Office of Admissions, and it's really that we don't track any of our recruitment efforts at all, and so we don't know how productive a certain campaign is. And so what we've done is we've taken CRM software and installed it, and now we just track everything. We get information from everything, and that was my project.
CRM,
Yeah,
customer relationship management,
exactly.
which means it's like a sales software,
Yeah.
and you're tracking every effort you make in the way of recruitment to see what its return is.
Yeah, and even just because we've already got it in place,
Mhm.
I know the whole reason why I wanted to address this problem is because the House bill and the QEP that we're going through and the stupid provision by whoever that says you don't get a 6-month grace period for your high school transcripts anymore. All of that is discouraging students from enrolling in college. We've had like a 3.48% dip in enrollment from last year. Right there, so I can show
There's reasons right there.
with the stuff that I proposed, I can say that it was worth it. That we've already experienced a dip, and now hopefully going forward we can see it rise back up.
Well, that would be
Student
approved.
government is freaking out about increased A&S fees, and the cool-headed faculty keep reminding them that we are bringing in less fees because we have less students.
A&S fees.
Your activity fees.
I think it's, what, $11 or something per credit hour
Is that what it
each student is charged. And that goes for the clinic, everything in student life,
Yeah.
is? All the clubs?
all the clubs, yes.
Interesting.
And, no, the RTS fee is separate.
Sounds to me like you all have good ideas for projects, for capstones.
I'm pretty free this summer to do it.
Well, if I can be of any help, by all means, contact me, let me know. I'll be in town all summer. Pretty much.
I'm lucky I worked in the office where mine was being
Now, when do you graduate?
done. This summer. And 3 weeks.
In 3 weeks?
Yes.
3 weeks, and you graduate in August.
In December, so
Yeah.
if that's August, sure.
August. So are you walking for graduation?
Yeah.
Are you?
Yes,
Oh, cool. That was another thing I needed to find out.
get your camping out.
Do I have? I've been told conflicting things. One person told me I have to get a whole separate cap and gown, and someone else was like, no, you can totally use the stuff you had last year. So I have a black cap and a black gown.
Yeah, you just gotta buy the,
Tassel, right? Oh.
what is it?
The sash?
Yeah,
They're making sashes for the
SOM group.
SOM group.
Yeah, but the
And I think
gown
the
and the
rest,
hat.
and I think they're getting tassels.
Yeah.
A business tassel.
We were
which is kind
told
of
that
round.
the faculty or the administration of the SOM program was providing the tassels for
Okay,
us.
that's fine.
And we were planning on getting the sashes. We
They're getting
wanted-
them too.
Yeah, we wanted so much awesome. Anyways, it didn't work. out.
But I think given that any black cap and gown, I
Okay.
think you're fine.
Okay.
I go there and I wear the ones I graduated with from Florida.
Perfect. Okay, I just didn't know. I didn't understand why it would be different,
I
but
don't either.
Would it be worthwhile going to the bookstore, seeing what they would sell me, and then find something on eBay for a bit cheaper? 'Cause they want to charge me about $60.
Yeah, it's probably worth looking. They do it
I'm
pretty
just gonna
quick.
sell back my final books and
$60.
use that to buy my cap and gown. Here, now give me my cap and gown.
For the bachelor's program to get the extra stuff.
Yeah, because of the sash.
But
Now-
the sash, but that's the thing.
There's some confusion out there too, because somewhere in the literature from the college, you're talking about a hood. A
Right.
hood is this thing you wear down the back.
Mm-hmm.
That apparently, traditionally that's been for graduate degrees, but apparently they're gonna use those here for the bachelor's degrees, to distinguish you. And given that, I don't know if you can get the hood by itself, you may have to buy the whole package. So
Okay.
you better check that first.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's what I was talking about, the hood.
Okay.
So now the sash,
The SASH goes down here.
Right, where are we
And
buying that from?
SOM is getting those.
Yeah, the group SOM is giving them to the members.
Oh,
Yeah. Same with the task force.
so
Okay.
don't buy those from the bookstore.
Well, and I mean, I think that's where we're getting them anyways,
Well,
because there's some stipulation where we
There's
have to buy from
But
books.
if nothing else, get on the canvas, go to the SOM group, and email Mike Chartier, the president.
Right,
And he'll straighten you out with the facts on what SOM is doing, what the school is doing, and what you need to do.
actually, that's a good idea.
Don't trust me. I'm sure.
I'll email them now.
All right, anything else? Okay, I will see you back here in a week and we'll have fun.